Pharaoh, the king of Egypt and a man who claimed divinity, was a defiant and arrogant person. His real name was Walid, and he is at the top of the list of those cursed and unfortunate figures in history who denied the oneness of Allah and proclaimed themselves as gods. He inflicted extreme oppression on those who refused to obey him and believe in Allah, massacring them and inviting the wrath of Allah. Eventually, he became a lesson for humanity. Today, we will narrate the story of how Pharaoh's wife, Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, embraced faith. But before we proceed, we kindly request you to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more such videos. Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, even before embracing Islam, was a pious and God-fearing person, always searching for the truth. Perhaps it was the will of Allah that she was the wife of such a tyrannical and rebellious ruler. This was the era when Hazrat Musa, peace be upon him, began inviting the Israelites to abandon the path of disbelief and disobedience and to worship the one true God. When Pharaoh learned that Musa, peace be upon him, was guiding the people to the path of righteousness, he gathered a large crowd and summoned his most experienced and skilled magicians to demonstrate their power, hoping to discredit Musa and make people dismiss his teachings as false and delusional. The magicians threw ropes on the ground, which turned into snakes by the power of their magic, crawling on the ground and instilling fear in the people. In response, Hazrat Musa, peace be upon him, struck the ground with his miraculous staff, which transformed into a giant serpent and devoured all the other snakes. Upon witnessing this, the magicians immediately believed in the message of Hazrat Musa, peace be upon him. When Pharaoh heard about this, instead of repenting and accepting the truth, he became even more arrogant and vengeful, increasing the oppression on Musa, peace be upon him, and his followers. Meanwhile, when Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, learned about this miraculous event, she realized the truth of Musa's teachings and immediately embraced Islam. However, she knew that following the path of truth and faith was not easy, especially being in Pharaoh's household. Thus, she kept her faith a secret from her husband. One day, as Pharaoh's daughter's maid was combing her hair, the comb suddenly fell from her hand, and she said, "In the name of Allah." Pharaoh's daughter asked her, "Is my father not God?" The maid replied, "No, your father is not God. God is Allah, the Lord of you, me, your father, and everyone." Pharaoh's daughter asked, "Shall I tell my father this?" The maid responded, "Yes, tell him." When Pharaoh learned of this, he summoned the maid. When she appeared before him, Pharaoh asked, "Am I not your God?" The maid boldly replied, "No, you are not. My Lord is Allah." Pharaoh repeatedly asked the same question, and the maid gave the same answer each time. Pharaoh became furious and ordered his servants to bring a large copper vessel and fill it with oil. He commanded them to heat the oil until it began to boil, and then throw the maid's children into it one by one so that they would burn to death. His orders were followed, and soon the oil was boiling furiously. The maid's children were thrown into the boiling oil, and they burned to ashes before her eyes. For a mother who cannot bear to see her children suffer even slightly, watching her children burn alive must have been unbearably painful. The servants then took her last infant, still in her arms, and tried to snatch him away. The mother cried out, pleading for mercy, begging them not to kill her innocent baby after already taking all her other children. In that moment, Allah, in His infinite mercy, granted speech to the infant, and He said, "O mother, do not grieve, and let them throw us into the fire. Verily, the punishment of this world is lighter than that of the hereafter." Thus, as a punishment for believing in Allah, Pharaoh cruelly killed all of her children before her eyes. Pharaoh then told his wife, Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, about how he had burned the maid's children alive for her belief in another god. Hearing this, Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, who had kept her faith a secret until then, trembled with fear and boldly said, "Woe to you! What has led you to such defiance and rebellion against Allah?" Pharaoh, shocked by her words, asked, "Has some madness overtaken you as well after listening to that man?" She replied, This is not madness. That man is a prophet of Allah, and his words are the truth. The Lord of this universe is Allah. After discovering that his wife had embraced faith, Pharaoh first subjected her to verbal abuse and taunts, pressuring her to renounce her beliefs. He even asked her mother to persuade her to abandon her faith, but Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, firmly refused. Soon after, Pharaoh told Hazrat Asiya, peace be upon her, that their daughter, too, had gone mad like her, believing in another god. He warned her to reconsider, or else he would have to take action. But she stood resolute in her belief and unwavering in her commitment to her faith. Unable to break her resolve, Pharaoh resorted to physical torture. He ordered that nails be driven into her hands and that she be left to die under the scorching sun. But her faith remained unshaken. She prayed to Allah, "O Allah, deliver me from the tyranny of Pharaoh and grant me a house near you in paradise, and forgive me." After all attempts failed, Pharaoh ordered his men to place a large rock over her body if she refused to renounce her faith. When they asked her once more about her belief, she looked up towards the heavens and saw a brilliant light, bringing her peace. She reaffirmed her faith in Allah, and at that moment, her soul was taken. The servants dropped the heavy stone onto her lifeless body.